You know, I've been building these gates now, these aluminum gates with this 350p. This 350p is about 10 years old, maybe 12 years old. This has a real heavy push-pull gun on it. This gun's like a... I have an AlumaPro light gun at home on my 350p. This is a much heavier gun. The wire I'm using in this guy is... This is 047, so it's the thickest wire, but it's 4043. This is the other gate. They're identical, obviously. The push-pull system, I TIG welded all these edges, so that's not push-pull. The push-pull that I did is all running here. A little bit of char on it, you know, which is kind of expected. This apparently, these welds came out pretty, but the blackness. This inside weld though, the only thing, you have to understand these frames are 2x2, but they're quarter wall thickness. So this is really, see, I got a piece of it right here. Crazy thick, right? So this is the picket that's in there. This is 064. So I got to weld 064 to quarter wall, right? Maybe it's not, you know, it doesn't look like 064 to me. It looks a little thicker than that. It's not, maybe 090, let's just call it. Well, when I'm using this push-pull gun, using this on these frames to weld these frames, like this inside corner, the 350p, it actually makes me look like I'm a decent welder. That machine, even as old as it is with that gun, 25-foot gun, is just an absolutely incredible machine. But what kept happening is I got my TIG torch out, and I can TIG all the corners and everything. Let me get a good one so I want my best foot forward. But this is like as good a TIG as I get. I've got a buddy that's way, way better. These hinges, this is all push-pull, and that's not bad, that's not great. But the 350p, just a couple things, the arc length in it, when I switch it down, right now I got it at 35, if I can get this in focus. The wire speed I actually had a little higher because, as you know, if you're doing pulse MIG aluminum with this, your wire speed is deciding your voltage. But what kept happening is I was blowing holes in this real thin stuff trying to weld it to this thicker stuff. And obviously if you weld, you know, welding thick to thin is really, really hard. Some of these turned out really pretty, but what I basically had to do to get it to look this pretty is I basically had to tack, and as soon as it starts to heat up on this frame's still warm for me welding it, it'll blow a hole through this. So my customer that I'm building these gates for is very particular on how this weld looks, and he did not want it to look like your typical aluminum MIG weld. He wanted it to be kind of a prettier weld, but my whole point in this is that you were always taught, you know, in welding, if you did that, you know, tack, that's where you get a crack from. But what I'd argue is in these, the thin pickets that are in there, all it's doing is just basically holding it in place. It's not like it's structural. The frame on this is so badass. The gentleman that bought all this, you know, was very particular in what he wanted. These hinges sure are cool, sure to turn out good. But a 350p though, you know, your wire speed is changed on your gun. This one's probably a little better if I can get a focus shot on this. But see that aluminum weld on there? I mean, the 350p with a push-pull gun, it actually makes me look like a really good welder there. But I love these aluminum gates. Absolutely love these aluminum gates. But if you have the means and you can get a 350p with a push-pull gun and you know how to weld steel, like MIG, you can't believe how a Miller, I've got a 255 with the AlumaPro light gun at home, and I can't tell a difference between the two when I use them. This one I got way more time on, but in all of this welding though, if I went back in time, I would have never TIGged this first. What I would have done, I would have taken my 350p, cut my frames, 350p, just everything, And now at the end, I would have come through if I didn't like this weld and ground this off and then got my TIG torch out and just gone doot, 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 and done that on all the corners, so he's happy with it. But my whole point in this is the 350p push-pull gun, aluminum. The 4043 wire seems to weld the best. I know the 5356 is stronger, but for what I'm doing here, I've never had like a weld fail. So anyway, that's just a little bit of gate information. Obviously, when you build these gates, these hinges, when you put them on, this weld, if I can get it to focus, way hotter than, let's say, this weld. This is almost maxing out the 350p. I turn it up to 450 wire speed. And I want to say it turns, if you watch the machine, you know it changes the voltage on pulse mig. I think it turns it up to like 27 or 28 volts. It's really hot when that's going in there. Yeah, anyway, gates, hinges, welding, breathing aluminum oxide gas, fun. Really a good time.